Okay, let's set the scene. You've got a teenage queen, a boy king, and a crown that basically holds the fate of all of Europe in its balance. I mean, it sounds like something straight out of a storybook, right? But this is the cutthroat world of 16th century politics we're talking about. And their reign, it was going to end almost as soon as it began, all because of one single catastrophic event. And here it is. Bam! December 5th, 1560. The King of France is dead. Just like that. Francis II, King of France, husband to the famous Mary, Queen of Scots, gone. And get this, he was only 16 years old. With his last breath, I'm not exaggerating, the entire political map of Europe just completely shifted on its axis.
So how did the death of one 16-year-old boy change history forever? I mean, this wasn't just some personal tragedy for a family. No, this was a political earthquake. And to really get our heads around the aftershocks, we've got to go back. We need to see how these two teenagers ended up on the throne of France in the first place.
All right, first things first, this story doesn't start with love. Not even close. It starts with pure, cold political strategy. We're talking about the Franco-Scottish alliance, a royal union that was cooked up with one very specific goal in mind: create a massive Catholic superpower.
And just look at these ages. Seriously, she's 5, he's 4. This was never some childhood romance. Nope. This was a geopolitical masterstroke. The idea was, by sending little Mary to be raised in the French court, her family would lock in what they called the Old Alliance between Scotland and France. And the whole point of this power couple? To gang up on their common enemy, the newly Protestant England, which, by the way, was ruled by Mary's own cousin, Elizabeth I. Talk about family drama.
And things moved fast. I mean, look at this. Mary gets to France in 1548. 10 years later, boom, huge wedding at Notre Dame. And then, just 1 year after that, the king, Henry II, dies in a freak jousting accident. Seriously. All of a sudden, these two kids, and they really were just kids, are thrown onto the throne of one of the most powerful nations on earth.
So now they're king and queen. But wearing a crown doesn't automatically mean you get a fairy tale ending. Their reign was fragile right from the get-go. It was short, it was chaotic, and honestly, they were surrounded by danger on all sides. 442 days. That's it. That's how long Francis II's entire reign lasted. Less than a year and a half. And you better believe every single one of those days was a knockdown, drag-out fight for control. You know this quote from the famous Protestant reformer, John Calvin? It really just nails the problem. He says the king is just a boy, and that they have him in their power like a hostage. And who's they? Well, that would be Mary's powerful uncles, the super Catholic Duke of Guise and the Cardinal of Lorraine. They were the ones really calling the shots, basically ruling France through this young couple. And spoiler alert, they were making a lot of powerful enemies. I mean, you have to picture it. The whole kingdom was basically a powder keg, just waiting for a spark. So you've got a chronically sick king on the throne, you've got religious wars between Catholics and Protestants, the Huguenots just exploding in the streets, you've got this growing anger at Mary's uncles for grabbing all the power, and just watching from the sidelines, playing the long game, was the king's own mother, the brilliant and totally calculating Catherine de' Medici. She was waiting for her moment. And then, poof. Just as fast as it all began, it was over. This brings us to a widow's incredibly uncertain future. For Mary, the crown didn't just get passed along to the next in line. No, for her, it just fell. Completely. And the cause of death? It's almost unbelievable. Of all the ways a king could die back then, assassination, war, a rebellion, it was an ear infection. A simple ear infection that got worse and worse until it became a deadly abscess on his brain. In a time before antibiotics, something we think of as so minor today was a death sentence. And the political fallout? Absolutely immense. With all this political chaos, it's really easy to forget that these were real people. Mary was just a teenager who'd basically grown up with Francis her whole life. This little piece of a poem she wrote, A Note from the Tomb, it just shows how heartbroken she was. In one single moment, she didn't just lose her husband, she lost her crown, her status, her entire world in the French court. And the political dominoes, they fell fast, like overnight. First, Catherine de' Medici, remember her, the king's mother? She makes her move. She seizes power, becoming regent for her other younger son, the new King Charles. That move immediately pushes Mary's uncles, the Guise family, right out of the picture. Their influence just evaporates. And that, of course, changes everything for Mary. She goes from Queen of France to a dowager queen, basically a widow with zero political power and no real role left at court.
So Francis's death, it didn't just close a chapter in Mary's life. It pretty much wrote the first fateful line of that tragic story that we all know her for today.
Just think about it. She was 18 years old, a widow, an ex-queen. And now, she was a political liability in the very court that she used to rule. Her future in France, it was gone, vanished.
So what's next? Well, less than a year after her husband died, Mary really had no other choice. She had to get on a boat and sail back to Scotland, a country she literally hadn't seen since she was 5 years old. And it wasn't the Scotland she left. It was now a fiercely Protestant nation, run by powerful nobles who were deeply suspicious of their young Catholic queen. This was no triumphant homecoming. Oh no, this was the beginning of a brand new and even more dangerous struggle.
And that really is the question that hangs over all of this, isn't it? It's what I want to leave you with. If that one simple ear infection hadn't turned fatal, what would have happened? Would Mary have just stayed on as a powerful Queen of France? Would her life story be one of European power and influence, instead of the tragedy we remember of imprisonment and eventually execution? It's a wild what if, and it just goes to show you how the fate of one boy, really, truly did change the entire course of history.